All right. Welcome, Crown Council Live. Hey, Steve.
What's up, Stu?
What's up? It's June 2nd. This is our Crown Council Live program. We're together here with each other. We got some great guests, the community for the next hour. So, welcome. Grateful to be here. Hey, are you training for a marathon?
I am not training for a marathon, although I am going to be cheering for
Okay.
two daughters who
Got
are
it.
going to be running a marathon on Saturday.
Man, I've seen them running. They kind of like do some social. Avery's ready, man. She's like
Avery is 14.
yeah.
Will be running her first marathon. She is an amazing runner. She's after it.
Man, and remind me, is it a Provo, Utah
Yeah, it
marathon
is
where
down Provo Canyon. So we're flying up to Utah from Dallas, and
okay.
it'll be a sprint down Provo Canyon. She's determined to beat her 23-year-old older sister.
She is going to. I watched them train. She's gonna be
Yeah, she's got the eye of the tiger.
that was fun. All right, cool. Very fun. Well, having people join with us on Crown Council Live. So if this is your first time watching, we're grateful to have you live. Although most of our practices and listeners are tuning in on the recorded version, which is just as good. We're grateful to have you watch and be part of this community-driven live program. So we've got some good guests. The first thing I wanted to share with everybody, I'm going to navigate to the crowncouncil.com website. And I'm going to share a little thing that happened to me this morning. I got a text from Crown Council member Derek Wallen. Can you see my screen, Steve?
I can see your screen. Yeah. Okay. In fact, I love this message. This is awesome.
So if you navigate to my directory, and then everyone that is a Crown Council member can go here to the Premium Member Hub. And over here on the right-hand side, it's a really fun, I don't want to say it's missed, but I just want to highlight it. If you have a new team member, click here on New Team Member Training, and we have created a portal that jumpstarts a new team member with a Crown Council Culture Jumpstart. So these are kind of the skills and the training, everything that we feel a new team member would want to watch and be a part of in order to understand what is going on in your practice when they arrive, just because they might not know what it means to be a 10. And so right here, episode 18, you can have them watch this as homework, or they can watch it together as the team. And it's a great way for you to bring on or onboard that new team member who might need an understanding of your culture and how your team connects. So with that, I thought this was fun. I got a text from Derek Wallen, and he writes, each time we hire a new team member, we watch the Crown Council's You're a 10 video together. Our office has now coined the term Tenergy.
Tenergy. I love that word.
And everyone is saying things like, you've got that Tenergy today.
I love it.
It's been fun to see them get behind it and take it to another level. Thanks for all you do. So what a fun thing to say. I might use this phrase a lot, Steve.
Yeah, I'm loving that word. That is beautiful.
You're bringing that Tenergy today.
Thank you to Darren Wallen's team. That's awesome.
So that's a fun little housekeeping item. Hopefully you can use that little portal for your new team members, training, and to get them on board with your culture. So grateful for Derek. That's fun when members send. I'm sure you get a lot more texts and messages from people, but it's fun when you get stuff like that to see.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Very cool. All right, so we're gonna bring in. Let's see. I got to make sure that Chris Heap is in our waiting room. Hopefully he's there. Let's see if he's waiting to come in. If Chris is there, bring him in. Dr. Chris Heap is going to join us from. Oh, no, Chris. Okay, so he's not in our portal. Well, shoot, we're going to bring Chris in to talk about Smiles for Life, and hopefully he'll come in. We do have Drew, though. Drew's waiting in the wings. So let's bring Drew in. Yeah. Drew's our resource partner guest that we wanted to bring in to share a little bit about what's going on with inflation. And Steve really has a better understanding of what Drew does as a profession. So I'll let him kind of take the lead when it comes to asking Drew questions. But maybe Drew, Steve, talk about what Drew does before we've got him on.
Drew's a dental CPA.
Okay.
That's the best way I know how to describe it. And here he comes. Drew, good day.
Good day, sir. How are you?
Good
I'm
day.
doing well. So Stu just asked me to describe what you do, and you can probably describe that better. So I'm going to take a shot at it. So Drew Heinrich and his team at Engage Advisors, they are dental CPAs. So they are a CPA firm that specializes in dentistry. So they know dentistry inside out, upside down, and backwards. They know all the ins and outs of dentistry. So as a dentist, you don't have to try and explain to them what dentistry is all about. They work with practice after practice on the accounting side, the tax side, and also the investment side, correct? Drew?
Yeah.
So anything that has to do with money,
mergers and acquisitions, all kinds of stuff. So
anything that has to do with money. And that is, it's always an issue, but especially right now, wow, a lot of topics with everything that's going on in the stock market, everything that's going on in the real estate market, interest rates, inflation. There are a lot of moving parts as it has to do with money right now. So can we talk about inflation first?
Whatever, if you want to, sure.
All right, so let's talk about inflation because it's having a big impact on the cost of doing business.
For sure.
Supply costs are going up. Maybe we can start with just a quick discussion about the difference between fixed costs and variable costs. Let's start with fixed costs. And I think everybody's probably familiar with that terminology, but just quick, why don't you give a quick tutorial, Drew?
Yeah.
Fixed costs on your profit and loss statement in a dental office would include what expenses?
Right. So, ultimately what we're seeing is honestly, it's kind of the variable cost, part of the fixed costs and part of the variable costs are definitely increasing at a pretty expedient rate, but fixed costs are as well. And that would be things like your insurance, the fixed amount of marketing that you spend every month, like your website maintenance, your SEO, the mail, if you do a mailer, every month or every 3 months or whatever that may be, those types of things, your accounting fees, everything that doesn't matter if you do $100,000 of dentistry or $1 million of dentistry, those expenses are going to be largely unaffected. Right.
And some of those things you can do some things about, like your utilities, you can try and conserve utilities, turn the air off, turn the, all those things off.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to bring up, rent. With everything that's going on in the real estate market, your rent's a fixed cost. And if you're renting space, not so much if you own your own space, but if you're renting space, probably a good idea to take a look at your lease expiration date.
Yeah, and know well in advance whether or not you're going to have to do something about that.
Yeah. So Drew, I know you tell your clients this all the time, but dental landlords that lease to dentists know the industry average is I believe a 96% renewal rate on dental space. So landlords love dentists because they know once they're in, they got them.
Stay there for a long time. It's very expensive to move. It's like a utility company.
It is. So if you wait to the last minute to renegotiate your renewal on your lease, they know you're probably not.
They got you.
Anywhere. So how far in advance do you recommend looking at your lease?
So it probably depends on what station in life you're in too, right? Because what season you're in, because we recommend for our clients to diversify their cash flow into retirement, and owning their real estate in some way, shape, or form is a great tool to be able to do that. And so, but to get to that point, you really have to start, significantly earlier than you would if you're just planning on moving to a different lease space down the road. Yeah. If you're planning on buying or building real estate, you're probably, 2 or 3 years ahead of your lease expiration from when you begin to start planning. Buy the plot of land, start working with architects, start working with designers, that type of stuff. If you just want to buy a building, you can shave about a year off that. That's if one's already constructed that you're just renovating or rehabbing. And if you're just moving right down the street, somewhere around the 18-month mark is probably the point in time where you start looking. 12-month mark, because it's going to take 6 to 8 months in most, 6 to 9 months in most areas to be able to have all your tenant improvements completed and be ready to move in.
Perfect. So that's a fixed cost, but one that I haven't seen very many landlords that will come back and say, hey, we're going to charge you less rent.
No, almost never. Yeah. But I think the part of it there is it is fixed, but you also want to make sure that you're optimizing your space, right? And so when you get the opportunity, if you buy a practice, for instance, and it was 8 operatories and you're never going to need 8 operatories and you have no desire to pay that extra overhead, maybe if it's a 4-op practice, maybe you do cut your space in half and move to a smaller space, or give up part of your space if that's even possible in your current lease location. But you have those opportunities to change that fixed expense every 5 to 7 years, usually, in dentistry. But things like variable expenses, even team members, right? I mean, some people would say team members are variable. I mean, they're largely fixed, because you got those people that you're going to pay no matter what, right? And then you'd stair step up when you start doing more dentistry. You're going to need more assistants. You're going to need a sterilization tech or extra hygienist or extra front desk person, so that they're fixed to a point, and then they get fixed to a new level, and then fixed to a new level, and fixed to a new level. You know what I mean?
So let's talk about the 3 biggies. So staff costs, lab, and supplies.
Production expenses.
So
which are variable.
Yeah, all those are variable expenses. Your typical target for staff cost as a percentage of revenue is?
I would say this day and age, it's creeping up, right? Pretty dramatically. So I'd say 25-ish would be a pretty good target right now to try. And
that's exclusive of benefits. So that doesn't include,
right?
It's just cost of paying your team.
Right. So I think the challenge that we have too is that depending on where you're at in the country, right? So if you're in California, if you're East Coast and West Coast, it's probably going to be more like 27 or 28%, right?
And if you're in Kansas,
no, it's going to be like 23%, 22%. So
you're in the 50-yard line, so you got
that's right. That's right.
Based in Kansas. Okay, let's talk about supply costs. Obviously, a lot of inflationary pressure on supply costs. Your target for supply costs as a percentage of revenue is?
We still look at production as production expenses as a total, and hoping that it's about 14% is still the target there. But I think a lot of doctors are trying to get smarter with what they're doing. So they're looking at buying groups. They're looking at joining, combining buying purchasing power with other dentists in order to get less expensive supplies, pay less for the same supplies they would have been getting anyway.
So that includes supply and lab together. Is that?
Yeah, correct. So a lot of times you'd see, maybe 10% lab, 4% supply, 8 to 10% lab, 4 to 6% supplies. But so many people are buying CAD CAM machines, and equipment now that we've seen that kind of inverse, if you will. And so where it's, maybe it's, 2-3% lab and, 7-8% supply.
Got it. So here was a question we got the other day. Love your input on this. A fee-for-service, cosmetic-oriented practice, what do you typically see as just the lab cost there versus maybe a PPO practice?
Quite a bit higher, because you're using, higher end aesthetic labs usually. And I guess it depends on a lot of different things, but usually you also bake in a higher rate, right, for your cases whenever you're treatment planning and putting your case presentation together, and you're providing the pricing on that. A lot of times you have a higher rate that you're planning on from a sale perspective, if you will. And so, but usually quite a bit higher. In that case, it could be 14%, 12-14% on lab alone. So.
All right. So let's go to marketing expense, to some degree fixed, to some degree variable, depending on how you scale that. Typical percentage budget as a percentage of revenue, let's call it a variable cost.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say it's primarily a PPO practice. What percentage of revenue do you typically see as marketing costs?
Well, ideally in a PPO practice, your PPO contracts, right, are providing a significant inflow of patients where the whole marketing conversation is not as important. It's still important, right? You still have to have your very basics done. So you're talking about, great website, video, some video content that doesn't, that's there and it's already done and customized to your practice. You're talking about local search optimization, and reviews are huge. And so having some kind of a review service to, have hundreds of 4.8 to 4.9 star reviews would be ideal. So in that case, you're probably not planning on spending a whole bunch of money otherwise, though. So you're probably in that 1 to 2% of a percentage of your collections.
Fee for service, cosmetic oriented practice budget's going to be
probably at least 5, maybe even upwards of 7, 8, 9. I've seen 10 to 12 in some cases. Just depends on where they get where they're getting their patients and how they're making money. If they're only making money on new patients, it's going to be 10 to 12%, right? But if they have a really large hygiene base that's just very consistent, fee for service, cosmetic, restorative, lifestyle dentistry, maybe it's only 6, 7, 8%.
Biggest question you get from your clients today in today's environment? What's on everybody's mind?
Yeah, a lot of it comes down to transition planning, I think, in a lot of cases. And so recently, younger doctors a lot of times are concerned with how can I restructure my hygiene programs, right, to be profitable and effective in today's market. And the older doctors are like, man, we're getting to a point where I need to start thinking about selling in the next 5 to 7 years. How am I gonna, with inflation and stock market down, so on and so forth, what am I gonna? How do I hedge my bet, so to speak, right, to be able to not be stuck for another 10 years when I want to be here another 5 years? So I think that's kind of two different groups of people, but very, both of them I think have been equally as important in the last 60 days.
All right, so new dentist calls you. You're having your initial kind of intake conversation. What are 1 or 2 things that you wish, or that dentists wish that they would have known earlier? They're like, when you start educating them and working with them, they always say, man, I wish somebody would have told me this sooner.
I think that by far the easiest thing is to put things on autopilot, set up habits and systems and put them on autopilot and let them go. So like I say, we work with a lot of our younger dentists to get to a work optional life by 55. And so if you're just starting, you're just buying your first practice, we put all the systems and mechanisms in place to just autopilot you there, right? And so we work with a lot of older dentists that are, 50, 55, 60, that still have, 3, 5, 10 years to go before they get to the point where they're, able to not work anymore. And they're always like, man, I wish we had found you guys earlier to be able to use your system to just get us there.
Cool. Great advice.
Good habits.
Good habits.
Good habits early on.
Early on, yeah. Time is your friend, or it's not your friend, depending on what end of the spectrum you're there.
Quotes by Drew.
That's right.
Fantastic. So you are, I started out with this. I'll underline it again. You all call yourselves a dental CPA firm. Correct. Because you work almost exclusively with dentists. So
exclusively with dentists, yeah.
Not a lot that a dentist has to explain to you for you to
Correct.
Understand what they're doing. And so that makes the whole relationship a lot easier and a lot more fluid. And you bring a lot to the table because you understand the business of dentistry.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we've built our systems and our processes around making it as easy and painless as possible for dentists, right? We know that their time is valuable, so we want to make it as easy as possible for them.
Very good. Okay. So Crown Council members can reach your team the easiest by what method?
Visiting our website, www.engageadvisors.com would be the best way to get yourself up to speed, acclimated, kind of see what's going on in the world.
And it is engage, not engaged, but
Engage Advisors.
EAGE Advisors. Mm-hmm. Tell us about the name real quick, because you went through a rebranding process not too long ago. I always love the marketing story behind names. So how'd you arrive at
January? The name? January 2020. We rebranded officially January 2020. Not expecting that the next 12, 18 months we're going to be on fire, but that was so to add insult to injury, I guess. But so really we wanted to rebrand with something that was more more in line with how we felt like we operate with our clients and how we want our clients to operate with us. So our best clients are ones that are truly engaged in their success and not only the planning, but also the process in which to get them to, whatever that next step in their life is. So that's where we came up. And, as advisors, that's what's our goal. Our goal is to be trusted advisors to help our clients achieve significance. And so that's where engaged advisors came together.
Fantastic. Very good. Drew, thanks for your insight.
Thanks, Drew.
And thanks for all you do for dentistry and keeping everybody on the financial right path.
Our pleasure. See you guys later. Have a wonderful day.
Right. See you. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Man, it's so fun to talk to somebody that has experience in a thing that he experiences that so much. It's all
Every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Very cool. Hey, we've had a major announcement in regards to humanitarian trips, Steve.
Is this breaking news, Stu? Breaking news?
Breaking news, everyone. Breaking news. Yeah, we're gonna bring Greg in. He's in the waiting room. So he just had some breaking news from the Dominican and from Guatemala.
He's not in the Dominican, but it is breaking news.
I wish he was there. No, just kidding. Yeah, it is breaking news. Our team in the Dominican. So we're going to have Greg come in. I know we've been waiting for a long time to hear from the government in the Dominican, kind of what is going to happen with our teams. There was some interesting talks that maybe we weren't going to be able to get the green light to go in. So, joining us live, Greg Anderson. Welcome. Hey, Gregor, will you talk a little bit about what we heard yesterday about our new humanitarian trip news?
Oh, it is so great, Stu. At the beginning of about October of last year, the Ministry of Health in the Dominican Republic put a stop to all medical and dental humanitarian trips into the country. And we thought it was COVID related. And as we got into the discussion with them and the Ministry of Health, we found out that there were some dental humanitarian groups, or so stated, that went into the country and were unlicensed. So we don't know any more about it than that, but they were so offended by it that they decided that they were just going to put a stop to it until they could put the rules in place. And they have not, as a blanket measure, allowed dental humanitarian trips back into the country. But yesterday they gave Esperanza, because of our long relationship with them and Esperanza's great relationship with the Ministry of Health, gave them permission for our 2 trips in the fall of this year. So we've got one in late October, one the first week of November. And we have their permission now to go in and make that happen. So we're very excited. And we currently have about 40 people, 40 Crown Council members and the doctor's team's family, all scheduled to go. Dr. Chris Heap is going to lead the first trip, and Dr. Allison Lesko the second. And we have room for about 10 people on each of those trips, if we have any that are interested in going.
And that's doctors and team members.
Doctors and team members. We could take one more team on each of those trips. We've got room, and we are so excited. We haven't been back for 2 years. Nice. So Dr. Patricia gave us the news, and it's awesome. And we also should mention that we've got this great opportunity that's just been given to us to go back into Guatemala. Dr. Ben Gar is going to leave that trip. Brandon Robinson is going to join him. And we've got room for about 20 people on that trip. Now, we haven't been back to Guatemala for 2.5 years. We've got a brand new base of operation there. And it is a community of about 20,000 people that have no active dental care within hours of where they live. So it's
20,000.
It should be really exciting. But great opportunity to,
Great.
you know, and people ask, as I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, why they should go. And my view, and I'm sure, you know, you and Steve could speak to this too, that it is an experience with your team like no other. And if you're looking to build a stronger culture and a stronger relationship with the people that you work with every day, serving together in that kind of environment is just a totally unique and different experience.
Very good.
All part of having a well-rounded doing good strategy for your practice.
Very good.
Yes, we're asked all the time how much it costs. The cost is $1,800, and that is inclusive of everything except for your air travel into the country, in and out. Covers all of the food, all the in-country transportation, all the equipment, all the supplies. We're grateful to Henry Schein.
Includes the tent, right? The tent. Everybody.
That includes the
Don't
tent.
say stuff like that.
Hotel room. We do stay in, you know, decent accommodations.
Yeah. There are those. I'm trying to remember what the guy in the Dominican called it. He called it something like humanitarian tourism.
Well, there's a lot that are like that. I don't know that ours is like that, but
Well, he said what they do is they call it a humanitarian trip, and they come down and work for 2 or 3 hours, and then they vacation for a week. And
that's not what this is.
that is not what we do. We work hard, and it's well organized. And boy, you know, our partners at Esperanza are awesome in that way. And Dr. Patricia is out scouting us sites as we speak. And, you know, we've had a lot of fun. We include Sam Ballard on these trips now, that goes in and is able to do a little lab work with us. You know, they still suck on sugar cane down there. So you got this kind of little U-shaped problem on a lot of those front teeth that he's able to fix.
Hey, active listener Greg is saying Chris Heap is leading in November, Allison Lesko in October.
Yes. Okay.
Got to make sure you sign up for the right one.
Yeah, you want to get on the right trip, because, you know, one or the other of those guys.
Yeah. Well, Greg, thanks for joining today. Even though you didn't go to makeup before you came on, we know it was a quick call to come in. So you still look good. Very good.
Thank you, friends.
All right. Thanks, Gregor.
You betcha.
Appreciate it. All right. Exciting news from the world of humanitarian trips. So grateful. I'm scheduled to go hopefully next March. So very fun.
Even though you're not licensed, Stu, you're the one they're trying to keep out of the country.
I have been asked to pull a tooth, and I said, no, I am not pulling that tooth.
No,
I'm not doing that.
You wouldn't want yourself pulling your own tooth. So,
oh, no.
Unless somebody else.
They're already terrified. That's the last thing they need is me doing a tooth. So,
yeah.
Hey, we thought it would be fun. Well, fun is a good word, to talk about No More Hygiene, the live program that you run with Dr. Tommy Neighbors.
Yes.
A lot of information, whether it's should I bring a team? What does the name mean? Where does this concept come from? Do I join live? Do we watch it online? So we thought we'd put together the next 30 minutes to talk about No More Hygiene, some background and information for anyone hoping to understand what happens there. Maybe you could start us off with who Dr. Neighbors is and kind of how this idea came about.
Yeah, this has been a fascinating journey for me as a non-clinician. I probably know more now about periodontal disease than 99% of America. And that all started many years ago. I was introduced to Dr. Tom Neighbors, Senior. He was coming in here from Dallas for a meeting and invited me to spend a couple hours with him. And so we sat down here in Dallas, and within moments, it was very, very clear who the smartest guy in the room was. And it was not me. And I would say probably, Stu, 90% of what we talked about was way over my head. This is a brilliant, brilliant man. and has spent his whole career, a big part of his dental practice and his career, just studying the nature of periodontology. And I call him a real pioneer in the industry, general dentist who took a particular interest in this specific part of his practice and started doing some things that were unusual at the time for a general dentist to do. Dr. Tom Neighbors practiced originally in Mississippi. And at his side from probably the age of 9 was his son, Tom. He goes by Tommy to differentiate himself from his dad. And side by side, started studying biology and the nature of what was really going on in the mouth at an early age. So I mention that because I'm a big subscriber to the 10,000 hour rule. It takes 10,000 hours to be world class. And Tommy, because of the early start he got in this area, he is well over 10,000 hours. We're probably 20 or 30,000 hours into this particular topic. So after I met Dr. Tom and he introduced me to Tommy, and I saw some remarkable things in his practice that we had never seen as coaches at Tops. And that was the kind of production he was doing out of his hygiene department. His hygiene department was producing 50% of his total office production. Wow. And that wasn't because he wasn't producing anything. Tommy is an accredited fellow of the Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry. He has a thriving cosmetic practice, and he does a tremendous amount of hygiene production because of the way he approaches it from a whole health perspective, and curing periodontal disease, which flies in the face of what is traditionally taught in dental school and hygiene school. Everybody knows the mantra, once a 4910, always a 4910. And that's not necessarily true. There's a lot of evidence now that proves that periodontal disease can be cured. And so as we got to know each other, he came to me and said, I would love to take what I know about the science and the application of proper science in practice and put together a comprehensive course that would enable other teams to do what we do in our practice. And that's where No More Hygiene was born, was that course, from the science to the treatment planning, to the treatment, to the coding, financial arrangements, presentation, everything that you need to have a highly productive, profitable hygiene program. As Drew mentioned, Drew Heinrich that we just talked to, that was one of the things he talked about is having a profitable hygiene program. So that just is a quick backstory. I caught Dr. Neighbors at the end of his day yesterday to have just a short conversation about this, about a little bit about the background, a little bit more about the science and the details around what goes on in his practice and what we do at No More Hygiene. So why don't we roll that, Stu?
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. It's like a 8-minute clip. Hold on. I got to make sure I got the right share sound. Okay, here we go.
So I'm here with Dr. Tommy Neighbors from Nashville, Tennessee. Dr. Neighbors, good day.
Hello, Steve.
You have spent, I was going to say a career, but the reality is a lifetime studying periodontal disease, implementing in your practice. And for those who may not know all the details of your practice in Nashville, you have a very aesthetic-oriented practice. You do a ton of cosmetic dentistry. You have the highest level of accreditation in the Academy of Cosmetic Dentistry and a thriving periodontal treatment area of your practice, maybe more so than any other cosmetic practice. I know in a lot of aesthetic-oriented practices, hygiene kind of takes a back seat, and it's like, let's just make them beautiful and they can get their hygiene taken care of somewhere else. You got a totally different take on that in terms of, I think you call it cosmetic perio. You want to tell us about that?
That's for really trying to get people's attention, but yeah.
Tell us about cosmetic perio.
Well, I mean, I think one of the things that I learned, at least, and I can kind of back that up to my dad, and just the importance of the mouth and its relationship to your body and health in general. And anytime we have an opportunity to impact a patient's health, I think we ought to take that opportunity to at least have that discussion. And of course, my emphasis of what I like to do would be cosmetic dentistry. But what I feel like every patient needs the opportunity to do is be healthier. And so we really believe that while enhancing smiles is really fun, most of our patients get the benefit of a hygiene team that is really well versed in sort of the oral systemic component, how your mouth relates to body, how body health and inflammation affects heart disease and diabetes control, and all of those things that just help us be better individuals. One of the things that I started doing, and I actually learned this from Chris Hammond, is that when we do a smile design case, one of the components of it is we'll actually include their oral health component of that at no cost, because we believe in it that much, that it's that important to us. And then we'll do their oral health components for a year after we do a smile designs.
So it's
And
included.
that's included. All right. And what I mean by that is, we do a smile design, we'll take care of the periodontal disease first at no charge. And then we'll do their periodontal maintenance for a year afterwards, because obviously they're making an investment, and we want to enhance that investment by what we also feel like is very important. And then of course we would love to capture that patient long-term in our own hygiene/perio department.
So that of course then streamlines the whole case presentation. It's everything included, one fee takes care of everything. So quick backstory on what you call modular periodontal therapy, decades in the making. That's the protocol that you developed along with your dad that you follow for the diagnosis, the treatment, and the cure, potentially the cure,
right,
of periodontal disease. What makes it different than the typical periodontal protocol, if there is one, in it?
Well, first off, there is no typical periodontal protocol. I would think every hygienist, every practice is going to have their own version of that. And I think a standardization of a protocol is very lacking in what we know about science today.
Yep.
The old standard protocol, which was scaling and root planing, 1 quadrant in an hour, local anesthetic, that was developed when we really felt like plaque and calculus was the target. And what we know now is that's debris. That's not the target. What's the target now is bacteria and inflammation, and controlling the inflammatory reaction of the body and learning about that. You can have debris on your body, dirt under your fingernails, but your fingers don't get sick because of debris. They get sick because of bacteria, and that bacteria having the ability to invade our body, and then our body initiating an immune response or inflammation. So learning about that process is probably what makes it so different. Is I can't give you a formula and just say, memorize the formula and do it. Understanding the process means you don't have to memorize anything, because you understand what's happening. And then of course it's that's the whole teach a person to fish component. I don't want you to memorize a program. We want to understand reactions, and we want to understand bodies. And when we do that, the program itself is very self-explanatory about why we're doing it. And I think that's the most important part. And of course, it's going to involve salivary diagnostics and being able to test saliva and understand about microbiology. We use phase contrast microscopy as well. So there's a component of science that's missing, and we need more science in our protocol than a periodontal probe, which was invented in about 1876, by the way. So
it's still not being used effectively.
Right, I know, and it's still, yeah.
So no more hygiene. So the course that you lead along with the whole team at the Tops Institute, no more hygiene. Maybe a little bit in your face to hygienists who might feel threatened by that name. Why the name?
Well, when you look at it, we were just talking about an article before we started recording, where in the article it's talking about periodontal disease affects 90% now of the world's population. And so if you've got a disease that's not being effectively treated, then we need to develop a protocol and a system that that makes that more standardized than it has based on science. What was your question? I actually completely lost.
Why no more hygiene?
No more hygiene. Well,
why do we call the course No More Hygiene?
yeah. So when you look at percentages of disease versus not disease, our patients don't need cleanings, right? They need therapy. And when we talk about medicine, everything is organized in medicine around therapy. You have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. When you go see someone in healthcare, you're going there to be aided in a way to get yourself better. Dentistry is one of the few medical professions that has preventive maintenance as a part of its protocol, but you can't get to preventive maintenance if you haven't stopped the disease process. So our purpose is saying not that people don't need hygiene, but they need therapy, and then they need maintenance, and then they need support.
Yeah.
And so hygiene is really for healthy people, and we don't have that many of them in our practices.
Yeah, in fact, it's we always say periodontal disease is the most widespread disease in the world. I know that because of Trivial Pursuit. It's an actual question,
right?
Trivial Pursuit. Yet, most patients think about it as just getting their teeth cleaned. It's far more than that. And as one of the things I love about what you always say is you don't go to the physician to take a shower or a bath.
Right.
So
right.
We need to be doing a lot more in dentistry than just hygiene. We need therapeutics to cure the disease, and then we can keep people healthy. So
correct.
Yeah, we need more therapy.
Correct. The statistics should be 90% in therapy and 10% in maintenance or cleanings.
Yeah. And more often than not in dental practices, we see the exact opposite. 80% going on is an 11-10 instead of a 43-41 or higher, or 49-10.
Correct.
Lot of work to be done. So what I love about what you put together, comprehensive approach to the whole perio protocol and the practice, not only just from a science standpoint, but diagnosis, treatment, coding, financial arrangements, presentation, how to make it practically work in your practice. And that is what we teach at No More Hygiene. So we consider it to be the highest standard of periodontal therapy and treatment in dentistry today. And I believe it will become the standard in years to come because it's proven, evidence-based to get results and cure disease. So dates online as well as in person at nomorehygiene.com. And highly recommended. We say every Crown Council practice should be a modular periodontal therapy practice.
Awesome.
Do cosmetic perio.
Right. Call it what you have to get it done.
You got it. All right. Thanks for sharing, Dr. Neighbors.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve.
Talk to you soon.
He is smart. What a smart guy.
There's a lot there. Every week, he and I record a short video newsletter. It's really a news clip, something current about the latest breaking news and research in periodontal disease. It's amazing how much research and what's coming out. So I encourage everybody to subscribe to that. You can subscribe to it by going to nomorehygiene.com and just subscribe to notes from No More Hygiene. The whole health impact of this is jaw-dropping.
Yeah.
To coin a phrase. Just everything that we know about it now and the research that continues to come out, just all the connectivity. Inflammation is inflammation. The more research that's done keeps pointing back to the same bad guys. It is now basically of the 11 different types of bacteria that are associated with periodontal disease, there are 2 that are running the show. Dr. Neighbors calls them the band conductors. And if you can eliminate the 2 or at least keep them under control, then the rest fall in line. And that has whole health impact. So here's, from a patient standpoint, Stu, here's one of the big takeaways for me is there's 2 different types of practices in dentistry. There are those that hire a hygienist and say, just go clean teeth and do hygiene. And then there's others who have a clear periodontal protocol of how they diagnose, treatment plan, and treat periodontal disease, and they train their entire team around that protocol. As a patient, I'm very clear on which kind of practice I want to go to.
Right. Yeah.
That the treatment shouldn't vary from practitioner or provider to provider. It should be, I'm going to that practice because of the philosophy of care, how they view it, and I know that I'm going to get the very best. So one of my most prized possessions, this is going to sound so funny, as a patient, is my perio chart. So I have this like ongoing competition to have the very best probing chart in dentistry. And so anybody is welcome to submit their chart. We'll compare it to mine. And I'm deep into this as a patient because I've been around it so much. And so every time I go in for my appointment, man, it's like, man, I'm every single probing depth. It's like, man, we got to be spot on. And just the whole health impact of this. Just, one thing that we've talked a lot about the last 6-8 months is the gain study that's been ongoing for years that they've now determined that PG, which is one of the most lethal bacteria associated with periodontal disease, so Porphyromonas gingivalis, is now also has been determined to be a cause of Alzheimer's disease. So if you have above threshold amounts of that here, then you're at a much higher risk level for getting dementia and Alzheimer's later on. Wow. So that's what we know today. That will continue to change as more research comes out, but there is definitely a connection, and that's, anybody that studied this knows it's not just Alzheimer's, it's heart disease, it's high blood pressure, it's diabetes. All the inflammatory diseases point back to the same bad guys. And that's one area where you can really help your patients get control of their health, is keeping those inflammatory markers down and educating them. We know today that it's like 81% of patients now want to have whole health discussions with their dentist, not just their teeth, but their whole mouth. So that's what I love about what Dr. Neighbors has developed. Modular periodontal therapy is a comprehensive approach that helps patients stay healthy, educates them, and potentially cures the disease, which is huge breakthrough.
And I've had a few thoughts, because I've been into the No More Hygiene, as well as just listening to Tommy. The one thing that always sticks out to me here is, as a dentist or as a dental team, you can be treating that tooth, treating the teeth, treating the tooth. I feel like we have taken a big step. Like, we are past that as Crown Council members, being concerned about that whole body health treatment and taking care of a patient from a health standpoint. I mean, it's like, who would just be like, I love the example he uses sometimes, which is like, I see terrible things here, but we're just going to wait 6 months and maybe it'll get better in 6 months. We'll watch it for 6 months, come back and we'll see what it's done. It's just ridiculous.
It's just going to get worse.
Yeah.
In most cases, it's getting worse.
The other thing I love that he talked about, I wrote down, is, Tommy is just, I don't want to say just, but he is a member of a community, and he has this idea, and he's sharing it with the group. I asked myself, like, why would he go to so much trouble to do everything that he is doing, to share and to teach and to create and to be this? And I just, what an incredible example of, he wants to further the cause of something that he has found that is changing lives and making people healthier. I guess it's just a call to the rest of the Crown Council community, like, what a difference it makes to be part of a group, a person that wants to share, that wants to take knowledge passed to him from a father that will make the community better in so many ways. It's probably wearing out his life studying and thinking about and trying to share this message with everyone. I just thought that was
I think it's a big part of his whole doing good strategy. We talk a lot about that in the Crown Council. Is part of that is taking a piece of practice. He has developed a comprehensive approach that works, not just the science, but how to make it work in practical application, and then sharing it with other people so they can do the same. And as a result, elevate the standard of care throughout the entire industry. It really, when you think about it, periodontal disease being the most widespread disease in the world, and there's only one place it's treated.
Right.
And that's in a dental practice.
You don't go to an emergency room with a mouth infection. It's just like,
well, I mean, or nor does the physician. I mean, every time I get my physical, they always ask me, when was the last time you went to the dentist? So it's acknowledged in medicine, but not very often treated or addressed. It's like, yeah, you need to be going. And then, dentistry's got to pick up the ball and take a much more proactive role in treating and curing the disease. So
right.
It is, I'll give you one graphic example, Stu, and this is a takeaway for everybody. Yeah. One of the standards that we have, that we teach at No More Hygiene, is we say no more bloody prophies, meaning if as a dentist, you walk in to check hygiene and it's being coded as an 1110, a healthy mouth cleaning, and there's blood, if there's bloody gauze on the tray, that is not a healthy mouth cleaning.
Oh.
There's something else going on there. And so that really becomes, that's really a pretty easy, it's a low bar, but one of the biggest challenges we see, and this is why we call it No More Hygiene, 80% of the procedure codes in hygiene in the average practice are healthy mouth cleaning. It's an 1110. But yet you got 80 to 90% of the population that has some form of the disease. So it's a mismatch. It doesn't make sense. And that's because we need to have better quality conversations. We need to be diagnosing it properly and treating it properly. So as a dentist, if you're going in checking hygiene this afternoon or tomorrow, you look down at how this appointment's being coded. And if there is blood in that hygiene room, it is not an 1110. We need to stop and we need to reconsider and look at what's really going on and have an open, honest conversation with the patient about what we need to do to get the patient healthy.
Well, my dentist, Dr. Hammond, I know he speaks, that's how he speaks. He says, if your arm had a giant festering infection, you don't put a Band-Aid on it and be like, hey, it's going to be okay. We'll just, no, it's like my body is infected. And if it's in your mouth, you're like swallowing it and you're every single time. It's disgusting. Yeah. And that's how he speaks, when it happens, is in that way. Like, because I think human beings understand the idea of infection, but like it's not talked about in my mouth. Like, no, it's in
the same way.
It
needs to be.
Yeah,
Definitely
it does. So
last thing I'll say, Stu, is nomorehygiene.com. That'll take you to the TOPS website. Dates, locations, in person, as well as online, whichever is more convenient. Difference between the two, the online is about a 6-hour overview of the entire protocol. The in-person is very hands-on. It's 2 days of hands-on training with all aspects of the protocol. Microscopes, how you read the oral bacteria tests, the entire system. So a lot to learn, and it is transformative, not only for the practice, but for your patients.
I agree. Very cool. All right. That was great. I called that the deep dive. That was good. Yeah. That was awesome. Okay. Well, good. Well, if we catch any questions from No More Hygiene or anything, we're happy to answer. You can use the chat box on the crowncouncil.com website to ask any questions about No More Hygiene, when the dates are, how to sign up, should I bring my team? It is, we're happy to help. It's an incredible program. And like Steve said, every Crown Council practice should be participating and being a part of it. So very good. Steve, anything else before we wrap up?
And there's so much that's going on that is good in dentistry. There's a lot of moving parts obviously going on now. And one of the great benefits of being part of the whole Crown Council community is just this kind of exchange, what we do on the email network, and so many. I learned a lot today, by the way. I don't know about you. I always love when we do this. I always learn a lot from the mentors that we have and the great resources. So thanks for being a great host, Stu.
Oh man.
And thanks to everybody in the Crown Council for having that attitude. I mean, it's all about giving the best of what you have, and taking what you need. And that's part of the dynamic here that creates a culture of success.
Cool. Thanks, Steve. Grateful
Thanks,
to be
Steve.
with you today. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.